Hey everybody, meteorologist Brad Panovich here for SkiSoutheast.com. We're getting ready for the big holiday ski season. Typically the week of Christmas and the week of New Year's, that 2 week period, very busy, very important time for ski resorts here in the Southeast. And we're actually going to time out some pretty cold air and some natural snow. Now there is some warm air in this. I'm not going to lie there, but we are going to have some pretty good conditions, at least to kick off this season as we get into the holiday season. So let's get right to it. So you may have noticed we've got one cold front that came through here in the middle of the week. That front is now off the East Coast. Temperatures in its wake are kind of back to where they typically are for this time of year seasonable. So a little bit of snowmaking opportunities at night. But what I'm really watching, this is moving in for your Friday. This is, it almost looks like an Alberta Clipper type system, but it's got a lot of cold air. And there are some possibilities for natural snow. Even before it gets to the Great Lakes, we've got some natural snow up there. I'm going to pause this and we're going to turn on the temperatures because you can see we have cooled down here in the southeast. We're getting the cold air, so some snowmaking can happen today and tonight, but it's going to be sporadic. The real big snowmaking is going to happen behind this next system, which if you look up there, you're starting to see temperatures up here are below zero in this area. Now, we're not going to see below zero readings, but we're going to get some really cold air that's going to be diving down to the southeast here in the next 24 hours. And that's going to set the stage for a really cold weekend and cold start to next week. So let's show you how this is going to evolve here in the next, I would say, 24 to 36 hours. So let's dive right into the short range guidance, which is going to do a really good job at the system. So you can see it. There it is. It's coming across the Midwest. I would call it an Alberta Clipper. It originated in Alberta. It technically is, but this is an Alberta Clipper on steroids because it's got some really big energy with it to produce some snow. Not just northwest flow, but likely some synoptic snow, which is snow that would come from the system in general. So you can see it moving across the Great Lakes. There's the low pressure system. Starts moving down here. This is again early tomorrow morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. So Friday morning. Now, yes, it could start as a little bit of a mix, rain, sleet, ice. But I think as we get later in the day, it's going to transition to snow pretty quickly. Now, here's what I'm talking about. There's a big burst of precipitation with this system that's not even what I would call northwest flow or lake enhanced snow. Now, the guidance here is struggling with the precipitation type. This is primarily going to be snow or wet snow as it enters tomorrow afternoon. So this is around 2:45. Again, 2 to 4 o'clock. Guidance like this, remember, you can't read into the preciseness or the exactness of this. You look for the general pattern, but you see that the precipitation arrives. And the reason this is such a potent system, we actually could see some precipitation east of the mountains. And normally you don't see that with Alberta Clippers, but you could see it moving down here tomorrow night. So Friday night into Saturday morning, we're going to get a good burst of snow in the mountains. And again, even though you're not seeing a ton here, just experience these systems don't show up really well in the guidance. Again, you can't read too much into this data. You got to make sure you're looking at the pattern as well as just experience. But this pattern right here, you see right here, this is a good setup for northwest flow. We're getting some bands coming off the Great Lakes, coming down into the mountains. So we're going to get snow. The other thing is the air is really Arctic in nature. So even the little bit of moisture that we have is going to fluff the snow up. You're going to get 20, 30 to 1 snowfall ratios. So don't be fooled by the fact that maybe the radar doesn't look impressive or the guidance I'm showing you doesn't look impressive. There's going to be some snow. In fact, I think it'll pile up pretty quickly, especially on those typical northwest facing slopes near the Tennessee line in North Carolina, and then up here along the ridges in Pocahontas County, up towards Canadian Valley Timberline, and then up towards areas going towards Wisp. Down in the Smokies, we should get some good snow. We'll see if we get some snow closer to Hatley Point, which opened up this week. Congratulations to them. Our newest resort now back open under new ownership and name there, just north of Asheville. So really excited to see a lot of these places opening. And the other part of this, it's going to be super, super cold. So we're going to have plenty of cold air for snowmaking. Let me show you the snowfall amounts. Again, this is what we call the blend of models. It's actually probably the best way to look at this. Oftentimes, it's not one piece of information at all. So we'll go through Saturday morning. I'm going to stop this Saturday afternoon. And you can see the general idea. You've got a burst up here towards Pocahontas County. That's probably going to be, I'll move this up real quickly, probably going to be in the 6 to 7 inch range. But anything you see in the blues, you're between 2, 4, 5 inches. See down on Smokies around 4 inches. Boone about a half an inch. So you're not looking at a ton of snow, but those typical spots, they kind of pop off the map there. Winter Place, Flat Top Mountain. You see Mount Rogers there. Howard's Knob, Beach and Sugar Mountain right there. Roan Mountain. That's the Mount Mitchell area. That's Mount LeConte, and Roan Mountain pops out there. So you kind of get the idea. That's the general look at the snowfall amounts. But the temperatures, to me, this is the bigger story. I'm going to back this up because this is the temperatures today, but as we go through time, I'm going to move this just a little bit so you guys can see a little better. We go through time, watch that cold air settle down here Friday, right there. And by Friday night, Saturday morning, we've got ideal snowmaking conditions. And snowmakers will tell you it's just not about the cold air, it's about how dry it is. These dew points could be single digits and below zero. So that's really dry air. You can fluff this snow up. Even the snowmakers are going to be very efficient at making snow. So they're going to be cranking pretty much nonstop from when the front gets here Friday all the way through Saturday. I would say even most of Sunday. You can see the teens and single digits Sunday morning. I'd say most of Sunday. North Carolina might get close marginal temps, but the dryness will help us make snow all day into Monday morning. And then Monday afternoon, this is where we might not have snowmaking by day, but on Monday night, we likely could crank it back up into Christmas Eve morning. And then Christmas Eve. Here's the thing, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day are going to be cool, but probably not cold enough to make snow overall. So you're going to see, some of these temperatures that are going to be a little bit marginal for snowmaking as we go into Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And then after Christmas, this is the bad news. There are signs of a pretty significant warm up across the country, not just here, but most of North America. So let's talk briefly about the long range pattern, because I know folks are always looking way ahead, planning their weekend trips to the mountains here in the Southeast for skiing, whether you're coming from Florida or other locations. You can see our cool down this weekend. Here it comes. There's our Arctic blast Friday, Saturday. Yeah, wait, and this is anomalies by, so temperatures below average, which you could see that's going to be great news for most of the mountains to make snow. That cold air lasts through Monday. And as I mentioned, really starting Christmas Eve, it's still below average, but starting Christmas Day, we start to see kind of the wedge get pinched off. And then we go into the days after Christmas and look at all this heat building, not just here, but over most of North America. That's a bad sign for some really warm air. In fact, let's look at the previous run to kind of show you how bad it gets, because eventually going into the weekend after Christmas, we're seeing really warm conditions here in the Southeast into the new year. So the bad news, it's going to get really warm, but there are signs even that doesn't last long. You start to see it wane a little bit in the first couple days of January. But the week after Christmas, basically from Christmas Day to the 1st, looks pretty warm. And then going into January, there's signs of maybe us getting back to some cooler weather. So yeah, we've got a great weekend of weather ahead, great snowmaking. Snowmakers out there will be making as much snow as possible to build that base up to get us through that warm spell. And they will, trust me, if you got plans to ski this weekend, I should say, into Christmas week and New Year's, should be fine. Most of these resorts are going to have a great base and be able to sustain themselves because of the cold air coming and a little bit of natural snow. Snowmakers in the Southeast are just amazing. Kudos to them. They will be working big time hours going into the holiday to make sure the skiing conditions are great for everybody. Still haven't had the big one yet, the big snowstorm here in the Southeast. We're still keeping our fingers crossed. As always, everybody, have a great weekend and keep thinking snow.